Well, this is my first stream ever on Twitch, and I decided that it would be a good idea to do kind of the story so far, as far as involves these characters. Now, this entire campaign is inspired by the show, the sci-fi show, unfortunately, Dark Matter. And I say unfortunately because sci-fi decided to take it off the air in a rather scumbuckety kind of way. My understanding is that one arm of sci-fi had acquired the show despite another arm not wanting it, and then when that arm that acquired the show decided to, I don't know what happened with the arm that acquired the show, but they went away, and so the arm that did not want the show in the first place came and canceled it basically out of spite. It's a great show, and this entire campaign is inspired by it, but it is not going to follow the exact same story. Now, few things are the same. This character here is named Porcelain. She is labeled there as 0x012 because before beginning this campaign, I had all of my characters pick random, well, not so much random, but pick characters based on the skills that were presented and the kind of a guiding personality given to each of those characters. For example, what I listed for this character, the 0x012 character, is female, pretty obvious, pragmatic, protective of crew and family, determined, and affection for the android, values independence. 0x180 is also taken directly out of the show. Now, mind, I did not tell my players which characters were from the show. They had a list of 17 to choose from. So, four out of, actually, five out of 17 is not too bad. The kid, um, hacker, techie, all around sweetheart. The protective one has a bit of an affection for the kid. Um, this is the character, one of the six characters that was not actually pulled from the show, and he is General Fix-It Man, laid back, goes by the name Dude. The android is from the show, however, the player that selected her is unfortunately not among us. He's ended up with family obligations that would not allow him to spend 4 hours every Sunday morning playing this game. And lastly, this character is inspired from the show, but gave this particular selection a choice between male or female. The That character is also an android. Uh, Watchers of the show would recognize this character as Wendy. That's the staff we got. They woke up on the ship right around about here. Actually, this is the bridge. So this is the bridge of the ship that they've been exploring in. They wake up on the ship, in the med bay of the ship, with no memories of who they are. They are coming out of cryostasis, and they don't know who they are. They don't know how they got on this ship. They don't even know that they're actually on a ship because everything is dead silent, and they don't know who each other are. In short, they have lost all memory of their identity or events of their past. They still have ingrained personality quirks as written in the character descriptions, but that's that's it. And they have common knowledge kind of things. They know how money works. They know how credits work. They know how spaceships work, and they know just basic common knowledge type things. They spend some time in this stasis chamber, not pictured, trying to figure out who they are, what they're doing, because they actually wake up one by one um, and see each other coming out of stasis with hoping the next one will have some memory of who they are or be able to tell them what's going on. Turns out, no luck for any of them. They're all as clueless as the rest. So they start exploring the ship, end up at the bridge and the kind of computery area around here. Um, Going over here, this is actually supposed to be an elevator here. We got captain's chair or captain's platform, cockpit, hiding in the corner over here, little hacker girl. So they finally make their way around the ship, figuring out that this one, 0x012, appears to be the captain because she's the only one that can open this door onto the bridge. Everybody else gets a pleasant computer voice saying access denied. Um, After some fiddling about with controls, they find out that, excuse me, they find some system readouts, life support, about 2 weeks, medical records representing all of them except for the little hacker girl, which gives her a little bit of an assumption that she was actually abducted by whoever these people are. And eventually, this was actually at the end of the first session, they finally get the ship's sensors activated, and filling the entire display in front of them as she activates sensors is a giant ball of fire. They still don't have engines running. They still don't have power to integral systems, to necessary systems. And so Captain immediately begins acting like a captain and telling people what to do. The entire next session is bent on getting the ship's engines running and figuring out where to go, what to do. They're caught in this sun's gravity well, and they can't just, well, they could, I didn't tell them exactly how to escape. They could have just jetted themselves out of it, acted directly against the sun's gravitational pull, the star's gravitational pull, but they take a bit of a wiser course of action and decide to slingshot around the sun. They're expending as little fuel as possible, which they find out they have almost none of. And they have managed to map out their local space well enough to see that there is a planet nearby, and they're not able to really get any readings on that, figure out what's on that planet, but they do see it, and it's somewhere to go. So they pull off this maneuver. They slingshot around the sun and relatively slowly drift towards this planet. 2 weeks go by, they're exploring the ship. They find that they don't have enough scrap or salvage or anything necessary to fix the most important structures in the ship, but they're able to get the engines running enough so that the big protective guy sitting right there in that seat feels like he could land the ship if needed, with one small or large problem. Everything that all of these people know or believe to know is that a ship of this size, now that they've explored it, it's 200 full meters long. It is a cruiser class ship if you're familiar with stars without number terms. This ship should not be able to land on a planet. It is space-bound. All ships of this size and larger are space-bound. Well, the hacker girl is insistent that the ship can land. She's apparently gotten herself into some systems and figured out that, hey, this ship has a configuration for atmospheric flight. She doesn't know why, and she's not a real huge ship junkie, so she doesn't understand the technical details of it, although she is quite a genius and is able to surmise quite a few things. But one thing she's certain of is this ship thinks it can land on a planet. It even has landing gear for the planet. So Cap trusts her intuition, her instinct, and trusts the plans of the ship, the schematics, and says that yes, that's where we're going. We're landing on that great big planet, and there they go. It takes about 2 weeks, during which time they are cataloging the damage to the ship. They come to the conclusion that the ship has been scavenged. Somebody had boarded it. I forgot to mention right at the beginning, one of the stasis tubes that they were in was cracked right open. It was somebody was in it, according to all the readouts, and somebody got removed from it. So they find that they conclude that scavengers came to the ship and took the most valuable components. There's also quite a bit of evidence that there's a lot of damage to this ship's structures by or from a spike drill that went drastically wrong. If you're not familiar with stars without number terms, a spike drill is how starships get from one solar system to another. It allows them to cross into what's called metaspace, and this is kind of a space outside of space in which ships can travel basically without the rules of physics hampering them. It allows them to cross vast distances very quickly, and that's the premise of this entire system, is allowing space travel between solar systems within a galaxy that would otherwise take, years, centuries, millennia, light years. And so this kind of spike drill can, if it goes wrong, go horrifically wrong, damaging components, parts of the ship, things that shouldn't happen. So those are the two things that have put them in a practically derelict floating hulk. Damage to the ship from a bad spike drill, and scavengers taking whatever else was scavengeable from the ship. Some time passes. They try and figure out names for themselves. I'm not going to go over the names because they'll come up in the stream tomorrow, and the stream tomorrow should start off with some possible renaming. The crew makes it to the planet. They land, more like crashing, but the ship's in one piece, so it's technically a landing. And they're about a kilometer away from what they were able to detect a little bit closer, a mining facility. They didn't find any signs of life as they were, or lice, as they were getting close to the planet. They didn't find any active energy signatures or communications, nothing that would tell them that there's anybody here. But there is a mining facility, and where there's a mining facility, there are materials to repair anything, including starships, and also presumably fuel, um, especially since there was no space station at which they could have refueled. Just this planet, just this little mining facility. They get down there, and all they see is death. Once they've reached, once they have, excuse me, once they have reached the planet and gotten to this facility, that's my little drone pog. Here we go. They come over here, and it is tables and chairs arranged into a makeshift barricade with bodies strewn all over it. keep coming up. Come around to this corridor over here. Find this child's room over here. And there's a kid. Been shot, just like everybody else, except kid wasn't trying to defend himself. Had a little drawing near his hand, a few inches away from his own puddled blood. A picture of a lizard-like man, kind of reaching towards a child, uh, sort of threatening, about as threatening as a kid's drawing ever gets. Captioned, "The Raza." Now, fans of the show know that that happens to be what this ship's name is. The crew have since then discovered that as well, and so there's some concern that maybe they did this. Little hacker girl goes around to some of the computer terminals around here. They find some files over here, and things kind of point to this colony knowing that there was going to be an attack coming. They sent out distress signals. They sent out pleading distress signals. They sent out distress signals for about 2 weeks. March 3rd, that's more than 2 weeks there. March 3rd, March 25th, they sent out distress signals for 3 weeks, begging somebody to come and save them from what they think is the Raza Vanguard. The miners on this colony don't know what's coming either. In fact, some of the computers that the hacker girl accesses have wildly varying stories on who the Raza are. And some of them come from the kids drawing there. Some of them actually do depict the Raza as lizard men aliens. But others make them out to be a vicious mercenary group. Now, I'll say that, I'll tell you as a GM here, this mining colony is a bit, it's out in the boondocks. It's in the Buckle Belt. People don't go here too often, especially since the mining colony, it did some business. It sold some ship-grade metals, but it wasn't a huge destination. So they didn't get a whole lot of current news. The crew, though, they spend some time here. They actually take all the bodies, give them a burial by fire, and make right by them. They salvage as much of the equipment as they can, take all the metals that have been packaged up and crated, put that on their ship, in their ship's massive cargo hold, and get everything up and running. The pilot says that he can take off, that he can spike drill out of here. They simply don't have a rudder. And that's where our android over here comes into play. The other android, the one that's actually got a player running it. Turns out this android has a black box in it. Black boxes are how ships exchange information with the planets, with civilizations out in space, including rudders, which in ship terms, in space terms, are the maps that are needed to navigate this metaspace. You can see a star that's light years away, whether it be a single light year. Actually, I'm not even sure that's possible in space, but or thousands of light years. And that information alone will not actually let you navigate this metaspace and get to that star. You need to know what the metaspace currents are. In the world created by Kevin Crawford, he's the writer of this Stars Without Number book here, or system here. A space's physical distance, dimensions, the distance between two stars has no bearing or very little bearing on whether you can reach it through metaspace or not. You clearly don't want to be traveling hundreds of light years in real space when your ship can't even reach a fraction of light speed itself. No, probably a fraction, but not that large of a fraction. Definitely not light speed itself. Um, and these metaspace currents are so strange that the star that's only 10 light years away may be farther away in metaspace than the star that's 1,000 light years away, meaning it's easier to get to that 1,000 light year star. So space gets a little bit warped and screwy when we're talking about moving from one solar system to another. This android has a black box in him. That black box contains rudders. They don't actually find this guy until they've gotten back on the ship and tried to figure out what they're going to do, what their next move is, because they found no rudders on the colony. And then more exploration of the ship. Find this guy. That little hacker girl gets herself locked into a room and has to. She tries opening the lock from the inside, and it's one of those valve locks, and she just doesn't have the strength. Anyways, he was in that room, and that's how they get to see this. It's not very full yet. In fact, it's pretty dang barren, but they have this information. They were on Stet over here, and they know how to get to Andois. They make the jump, get to Andois. Andois has a spaceport. Andois has the facilities necessary, at least appears to have facilities necessary to effect repairs, full repairs on their ship, get some of that old maintenance crud out. And that's essentially where we're at. They've spoken with an administrator of Mona. Mona is just one planet in this Andois star system. It is, however, the only inhabited planet in this Andois star system. They've spoken with an administrator who seems to recognize them as having been here before. Um, doesn't know that they've lost their memory, is addressing them just as if they know him. And they have only recently, we ended last session with the ship that landed on Mona, receiving the. I skipped a step. The hacker girl had created a partition in the ship's computer storage that would act as a black box. It isn't a good black box. The ship will eventually figure out that this is not a black box, but for now the ship thinks it has a black box and is receiving and transmitting data as if. So from this planet, they get news report of the attack on Stet Prime, the mining facility Paradise. And so the android brings that little holovid over to the crew, who are being, well, relaxing in very nice, if very, very restricted accommodations on Mona. They all watch it. They are seeing Galactic Mandate, which is essentially space cops, go through the wreckage. They're seeing on the holovid the bodies that were left behind in the attack. And they're seeing in the holovid the date of the holovid is still of the same date that they eventually figured out they were still in stasis. Now, I've skipped over a lot of details here, but that is recap in a half hour. There's a bit of a blog of